All right, we're going to start going through your final exam review. So when we look at the first one, we want to look at its end behavior first. And here's what we know. We know that it is negative x to the third, so we know it's going to end negative. So what can I do automatically if it's going to end negative is I can get rid of letter D right away. So then they all kind of look the same. We know that it's going to have two turning points, and all of them do have two turning points. So we can check that off. What I would do is I would test a point. I would test when you plug in 0, what do you get back? So you have negative 0 to the third and 2 times 0, which is going to give you 0. So you're looking for which one has the point 0, 0, and the only one that does that is letter C. So that is the one that you want to pick for that. Same thing on number 4. Here's what I know. It's going to have the same because it's x to the fourth, and it's going to end positive. So if it's going to end positive, I can get rid of letter D right away. And then all of them pretty much look the same, so I would test a point again. So it's easy to test the point 0. So I have 0 to the fourth, 4 times 0 squared, and 0 minus 1. So you're going to get negative 1, so it's the ordered pair over 0 and down 1. Well, over 0 and down 1 only happens in letter A. Okay, so you can always test a point on any graph that you see ever. Number 3, I want to factor this. So I know that my A value on this is technically 1. So I'm going to try and say what multiplies to negative 27 that adds to 6. Well, what does that is 9 and negative 3. The only difference on this is that this is to the fourth, so it's going to be x to the fourth. Well, I guess when we put it in parentheses. When we put it in our parentheses, we're going to say x squared plus 9 and x squared minus 3. And then you're going to see if you can factor that down anymore, which we can't. So this is our only option, which means our answer is going to be B. Okay, let me see if I can get 2 on a page here. All right, 4 and 5. So on number 4, I would start this by grouping. Group both of these, and from there, I can take out an x squared, and I'm left with x minus 4. And on this one, I can take out a negative 3, and I'm left with x minus 4. So now I have x squared minus 3 and x minus 4. And I can't factor either of those down anymore, so I'm going to look and see if I have that as an option. And I do. That's letter C. That is my only option for that one. All right, looking at number 5 is telling me to find the zeros. So that means that I have to actually set it equal to 0 and solve for this. So I'm going to still do my multiplication, and I'm going to say what multiplies to negative 135, because that's these two multiplied together, and what adds to negative 42. Well, the things that do that are negative 45 and positive 3. So remember, I have to go long method here. So I say 5x to the fourth minus 45x squared plus 3x squared minus 27. Okay, what's in common here? 5x squared, and I'm left with x squared minus 9. In common here is 3, and I'm left with x squared minus 9. Okay, so before we stopped at saying our answer was 5x squared plus 3 and x squared minus 9. But this one's different because we want to actually set this equal to 0 and solve. Well, I also know that this can break down into x plus 3 and x minus 3. And that makes my life a little bit easier because I know that the answer to this is negative 3. The answer to this is positive 3. So I can already get rid of C and B, and then I just have to solve this one. Well, 5x squared is going to be equal to negative 3. Then x squared is going to be equal to negative 3/5, and then I'm going to take the square root of both of those. So as soon as you see a negative sign, that means that you want to pull an imaginary out in front. So I have an I, and then this is the square root of 3 over the square root of 5. Well, that's still not one of your options because we have to rationalize the denominator. And what that means is multiply by root 5 over root 5. So that's going to give us I root 15 over 5. And remember, that's plus or minus. So my only option for this one is D. Okay, our root 15 over 5. Number 6 also wants us to find all of the zeros. So when I look at this, I see 4 parts. When I see 4 parts, I automatically think I should group. So if I take that and I group that, I can take out x to the third, and I have 3x plus 1, and then I can take out a negative 1, and I have 3x plus 1. So now I have x to the third minus, oh, and this one I could take out 1x. That's what I forgot to take out. Minus x, and here I have 3x plus 1. Well, this one factors down even further. I can take a common x out, and I have x squared minus 1. Still not done, though, because this factors to x plus 1 and x minus 1. And now I set each of these equal to 0. So this one is 0, this one is negative 1, positive 1, and this one will become negative 1/3. How do I know I have the right number of roots? Because it's our x to the fourth. Whatever my highest thing is how many I should have. So my answer to this one is A. My next question is asking us to describe the end behavior. So what I want to look at here is x squared and then the number out in front. So the x squared tells me that it's going to be a quadratic function, and they're both going to be the same thing. The 2 is positive, so it's going to be up, so it's going to rise to the left and it's going to rise to the right. It's going to rise in the same direction, or it's going to rise in opposite directions because it's the same thing. Number 8, describing the end behavior on this, exactly the same thing. This is a parabola because it's squared, and because of that 2, it's going to be positive. So it's going to rise to the left, and it's going to rise to the right. Naming these, make sure that you remember your chart, or at least write it down on your cheat sheet. Its first name has to do with the degree. So if it's raised to the first, it's a monomial. Raised to the second, or not monomial, sorry, it's linear. Confusing first name and last name. If it's raised to the second, it is quadratic. If it's raised to the third, it's cubic. Fourth, quartic. Fifth is quintic. And then you do its last name. And for the last name, that has to do with the parts, or how many parts there are. So if there's 1 part, it's a monomial. 2 parts is a binomial. 3 parts is a trinomial. And 4 or more is a polynomial. Okay, so in number 9, its highest degree is to the third, making it cubic. So I can get rid of both of those. And then there are 2 terms, so it's a cubic binomial. So same thing on number 10. Its highest exponent is to the fifth, so it is quintic. So I can get rid of B, and I can get rid of D. And because there's 4 parts to it, it is a polynomial. Number 11 is just combining your like terms. So you can either stack these. You can kind of do whatever you want with them. If you want to put all of the to the thirds together, and then the squareds together, and then the ends together, that's fine. But remember, this has to go to all of those, and so does this. So that's going to be, my second one is going to be a negative 5, a positive 5n to the third, and a positive 4n squared. And then my one on the right is going to be a negative 6n to the third, a negative 4n, and then a negative 6n squared. Okay, so I'm adding all of these together. I have my ones to the third, which I did not do a very good job of lining those up. I have negative 10 and then 5, so that's going to give me negative 5 n to the third, which all of those have. My n squareds are right here. So I have 7 and 4 is 11, take away 6, so I have 5n squared. And then these are going to add up to 0, and then minus 5. So your answer to that one is B.